Welcome to Change Bites with Rafaa Mustafa. Each episode features practical tips and actionable approaches to change management, grounded in real cases and delivered in small bites. A key takeaway snapshot is shared on the host's LinkedIn profile, so there's no need to take notes while listening. Let's begin today's episode.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to Change Bites. This episode is a special one. It's a two-part conversation focused on change management with real impact. Part 1 focuses on building practical change skills, mindset, and what strong change practice looks like in today's landscape. Part 2 will shift into practical examples, with a strong focus on how data can guide decisions, reduce risk, and improve adoption outcomes. I'm really pleased to be joined by Gilbert Kruidenier. Gilbert is a highly experienced change leader and advisor who has worked across complex transformations, helping organizations deliver change with stronger impact and more practical execution. Gilbert, welcome to Change Bites. It's great to have you here. Would you like to introduce yourself and share a bit about your background and the work you do?
Sure. Thanks, Rafa. It's very nice to be on your podcast. Thank you for inviting me. I'm Gilbert Kruidenier. I've lived in Australia now for more than 12 years. Before that time, I lived in Europe, so that's where the strange accent comes from for your listeners. I've worked across all kinds of sectors, from governance to manufacturing to fast-moving consumer goods to where I work now in construction, which is a completely new space for me to operate in. It's a lot of fun. I often get involved in more difficult change situations or very high pressure, short-term turnaround programs. That's where I do my best work. I love the part about analysis, making sure that everything gets done in the right order so people have a great change management experience. Other than that, I volunteer for the Change Management Institute, been quite active there for a couple of years. I've written a couple of books about change. I do things for the community, make some cards, organize events. That's what I love doing, just getting involved, hearing from other people what happens in change management, and then bring that back to the wonderful people that I work for to make their lives better.
Thank you, Gilbert. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Let's start with a big question. Where should change managers focus their effort to create the greatest impact?
I think they should always focus on delivery, especially in areas that are impacted the most. That's where people need the most help. So an improvement in that situation will do most of the heavy communications lifting for any change project. But of course, if you get it wrong, the reverse is also true. It's very high tension situation that you might get into, but delivery is always where I go.
That's a great way to put it. Another question I'm curious about: where do you see change effort wasted the most?
It's often near the end of the change when everyone wants to move forward already and get on with the new thing. The learnings, the gathering of learnings or celebrations are often skipped because we're all so busy getting to that next thing. And I always find it a bit sad because there was a lot of hard work done. And then we just forget about that and move on to the next thing to do that even faster.
Yes, I've definitely seen that a lot. It's the part that people tend to underestimate. Let's move on. If a change manager wants to increase their impact, which technical and soft skills are truly worth investing in? And on the flip side, which skills do you think are often overrated?
Ooh, that's a good one. It's quite a long list because it's not, as you very well know, it's not a profession that is just one thing and one thing only. So I would say my essential list is being able to listen to understand and not just to start talking again. Critical thinking is very important, and also to be able to articulate your critical thinking into practical recommendations. Being AI literate, it's really something that we need to get on and get behind as a change profession because it's just everywhere. Have some project management skills because it will put you in good stead with any project manager that you come across. And sometimes you'll find yourself on a project where there's no project manager, and being able to structure a process and project by yourself while you manage to change, it's just very convenient. Be able to do an impact assessment, be able to hold your own in stakeholder management, have some visualization skills, being able to write for an audience, and understanding the executive mind and priorities that they have, because otherwise you're essentially doing business with yourself. You need executive input and buy-in, and the only way you get that is to speak their language. So those would be my essentials. What I think is often overrated is technology skills, like, oh, I'm a master in Jira or Agile, or I'm great at coding. Yeah, that's super useful, but probably not so useful for change. It's useless in most change delivery, I would say. And I know that's harsh or a bit hard to hear for some people who've developed these skills, but sure, you can find a use for it. But most people just want to get to the thing that needs to happen and are not that interested in your platform. Most methodologies are also kind of overrated because they never work in the situation that the change manager finds themselves in. They always find themselves having to adapt it. And then lastly, strategic thinking. I hardly use it. It's just like most organizations, they don't have a lot of strategy going on. And there's a plan somewhere in a desk drawer somewhere. Often don't use it. So people like to say that they're a strategic thinker. I often don't need it. It's more about practical solutions than anything else.
That's a really interesting mix. I think a lot of change managers will relate to that. So how can change managers uplift their capability in a practical way, Gilbert?
I always recommend just get your hands dirty in the delivery side of things. So where at the coal face, where the change actually happens. Sit in it with those people, experience it for yourself. Don't just do it to people, live it with them. Read the books, listen to podcasts like your podcast. Go to events and be part of the community. So challenge yourself to stay current. Just be a mentor for someone, network with others, maybe even run an event or volunteer, teach others. Nothing shows you better what you don't know than trying to explain it to others. I've learned that while I was teaching and while I'm still teaching to people. I get a little bit better at it every time. They ask me questions and I go like, oh, I actually don't know that. I should figure that out. And then I learn from their learning as well. So I think that's an important part. Just stay curious, stay humble, and you can always lift your game.
Yeah, that's a great reminder that learning happens in practice, and that's for sure. So what podcasts, resources, or communities would you recommend for change managers to sharpen their judgment and stay current?
Okay, that's always a hard question to answer because there's so many things that I would recommend. Nowadays, I send people towards the Agile Change Leadership Institute and Lean Change. Those are my two favorites because they're very practical. It's created by people who do the work. When it comes to podcasts, there are so many. I recently just put out a starter guide 2026 version again. I would recommend go to my LinkedIn profile, find it there. There's, I think, 20 podcasts in there, aside from all sorts of other stuff that might be interesting for your listeners. They can read the document. They can't listen to it in most ways. For community, go with Change Management Institute or Association of Change Management Professionals, ACMP. Both have very strong offerings. CMI has great events in all major Australian cities. It's run by practitioners, and ACMP is doing a great job in North America and beyond. You get great value for about $300 a year, and I think that's an excellent price for all the value that you'll get out of it. So that's a great way to stay current.
Yeah, of course, community keeps us grounded and current, and we're lucky to have such a strong Change Management Institute community here in Brisbane. Building on that, who should change managers follow on LinkedIn or X to gain practical insights?
I just mentioned that starter guide. It has a list of 90 people, but if you're too busy to look up that document, a couple of names that I would definitely recommend. It's Richard Clayton, Douglas Flory, Nisio Zigbu, Helen Palmer, Jason Little, Jennifer Fromm, and Justin Balaski, and all for different but very good reasons. They are definitely leading the field. They've got thoughts about change and leadership that I don't get anywhere else. But naming 5 or 6 names is like almost feels disrespectful to the many other great leaders out there shaping the field and shaping the future of change management. So go and explore that list and connect with these people. They'll be happy to include you in their network because they're all great people.
That's a fantastic list. Plenty to take away here. And I'll make sure to add a link to your 2026 starter list in the show notes. Now, from a hiring perspective, what do you look for in a strong change manager leading complex transformation? And what would you expect to see from them in their first 30 days?
Okay. Leading complex transformations is not want to be pedantic about the language, but I think complex transformations are very rare in Australia or maybe even in the world. So I'll just go with strong change manager capabilities, because I think if you can do a good job at a small scale, you can do a good job at a larger scale, because most change is simply not complex. It's complicated. We know the solution. It's just hard to get it done in an organization. So I would say if I was hiring, I would look for curiosity, the ability in a person to read the room, to be pragmatic. No one likes theoretical change. It takes forever and you might be right, but you get it wrong in practice. Having strong prioritization skills, very much connected to the pragmatism. A willingness to speak truth to power, because if you're not doing it, no one else will. And a deep understanding of complexity, so you can understand what it is not. It's very important to distinguish between not knowing the solution and figuring it out together, which is complexity, or having a solution and finding it very difficult to get it through the organization, which is often just complicated. So those are the things that I look for in a hiring manager. In my first 30 days, or when I work with change managers in the first 30 days, I'd expect them to read everything they can. That's what I do. I try to get my hands on all sorts of information, each plan, report, spreadsheet, slide deck, you name it. I want to read it. I want to see it. I just want to absorb it and then ask lots of questions. I'll meet people where they are in the process, or where they are in the building, or even in the country, and go where the action is. I need to see it for myself. Now, I get super annoyed with new people who come in and immediately start providing solutions. They didn't even take time to see the context. It looks like they already had a solution before they came in. It generally doesn't end well with those roles. I think having some humility and understanding context before start handing out wisdom that works somewhere else is a very good idea.
100%. Taking the time to understand before acting makes a big difference. And that brings us to the end of part 1. We talked about where change managers can focus their efforts to create the most impact. In part 2, we will move into practical examples, focusing on data. Thanks, Gilbert. And thanks, everyone, for listening to Change Bites.
Thank you for listening to Change Bites. A key takeaway snapshot from this episode is available on the host's LinkedIn profile. Links to all resources mentioned are included in the podcast notes. Podcast updates are also shared via the Agile-Brainz LinkedIn page. Follow Change Bites to stay up to date with future episodes.